Welcome to the Creative Condition podcast with me, Ben Talon, illustrator and creativity coach, founder of the Creative Condition, artist and writer. I bring 20 years of creative industry experience and a lifelong love of creativity, a fundamental pillar of human happiness, to you through ongoing personal exploration and the shared experiences of others. You'll get a nourishing mix of creative industry professionals and people far and wide using creativity in ways that can take our learning to the next level so we can maximise our unique blend. The show has been supported from day one by Illustration X, a tremendous illustration agency representing a shining global roster of illustrators and animators over at illustrationx.com. The music for the show is by Dirty Freud, who you can listen to now on all good streaming services. And for everything else, for my coaching, resources and inspiration, head to thecreativecondition.com.
You know, I've been working on kind of projects that I just had absolutely no, kind of belief in other than, I know how to do this, know to kind of make what the client or the agency or whatever wants, and I can do that. And then, but there was never kind of thinking time for me to kind of do my own thing separately. So yeah, it was kind of quite right. I've got to, if I want to kind of make a change, then it's got to be quite a sort of dramatic, exit, to different. And it's like, but then it's like, right, well, not having a safety net is a great. It's a great kind of way of making things done.
Today I'm joined by design and art legend Anthony Burrill. Anthony is a force of nature. We all know those iconic prints that deservedly sit on countless walls, from Work Hard and Be Nice to People to I Like It, What Is It, and Think of Your Own Ideas. We're talking to the man behind those words. We're going to talk about his journey into the arts. We're going to talk about his upbringing. We're going to talk about great writing and minimalism and distillation that makes those prints so iconic. We're going to talk about his commercial work before he started doing that and how that all happened, and so much more in between. This is The Creative Condition. How are you doing, guys? My name is Ben Talon. I am the host of the Creative Condition podcast, the founder of the Creative Condition, my broader model of helping people to understand, embrace and maximise their creativity. I work as a creative coach alongside my work as an artist, an illustrator and writer. I could go on. You know what it's like in this world. But here I am, bringing you the legendary Anthony Burrill today on the show. But before we can do that, we've got to thank the people who made it possible in the first place for me to be doing this today. Illustration X, my wonderful illustration representative, but more importantly, the supporter behind this show. Harry Lyon Smith, as I've said many times, gave me the idea. I was listening to podcasts, he was listening to podcasts. I was rabbiting on about creativity, as I do and have done for many, many years, decades now. And he said, "You thought about podcasting? Because if you want to give it a go, we'll get behind that. We'll market it. We'll support you." What a leap of faith. So, always appreciate it. Check them out. You can check out the global range of illustration and animation portfolios now to work with the world's greatest professionals in visual communication at illustrationx.com. Please do also consider supporting the Ukrainian Institute. I know I go on about these guys a lot, but I hope you'll agree it's a horrific time of war, and it's incredible bravery to see those guys still making, still dreaming, still pushing for something better. You can help them by sharing their work right through to commissioning some of their artists when you go and check out ui.org.ua. So welcome to the Creative Condition. How have you been? I've had an upturn. In mental health. So you guys will probably be sick of me rabbiting on about anxiety now. But I'm very candid on this show. I've always placed great value on mental health, the well-being, because if we don't have that, despite the occasional value of adversity in the creative process, we can't be optimistic, and we can't be our best inner artists. So I hope that you are with me on that cause and you will tolerate my ramblings. But I'm feeling much better this week. I've started this workbook called Mind Over Mood. It's a CBT workbook. Give me 1 second and I'll tell you the authors, because it's amazing. It's been really, really great for me. Alongside increased physical activity, I've started running, even though I really don't like running. I've started weaving it into the dog walk, just making it work for me in a busy schedule as a parent, and running business and, looking after a dog and all that stuff. You have to sort of factor it into your schedule. Give me a second. Mind over mood. Where are we? Sorry, guys. This is not great audio. Mind over mood. Here we go. So this book basically gives you the tools to interrogate your thoughts, to get them down before they run away with you, and to assess the reality of them. It's amazing. It's been really, really impactful for me. Dennis Greenberger and Christine A. Podesky, co-authors of it. Life-changing self-help guide it's described as, and it's certainly had that impact on me. So a combination of that, physical activity, increased socialising, and just being a little bit more organised, being on top of my accounts, knowing what I'm owed, knowing what my picture is, so that when I have that horrible surge of panic, when some money comes out of my account, for example, you freelancers will know that well, that it's not dominating me for 24 hours, for 3 days. And that's something that's been going on for me for time now. And even with thoughts around the environment, the climate crisis is a particular troubling thing for me. I've recognised the agency I have over my thoughts on how to frame that and how to deal with the realities of these things. And it's been really, really good. So I'm a week at the time of recording, feeling great, feeling back to myself, feeling optimistic. I'm under no illusions. There will be challenges ahead. There always are. That's the nature of life. I keep saying it, but Dr. Phil Stutz talks about the immovables in life, uncertainty, pain, and constant work. Once you accept that and get your head around it, it becomes about responses. So that's where I'm at. I'd love to hear where you are. If you want to bounce off me and have a conversation around that, I'm always willing to listen and, email whatever, ben@bentalon.com if you want to do that. Message me on LinkedIn is the other way to catch me. Feedback on the show is awesome. Please do share, rate, review, subscribe. All that good stuff. Tell a friend. And you know what? Do us a favour. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts, because I'm a complete dick and I'm not really good on the tech side of things, I've ended up with three duplicates of this podcast. So the one you want to be subscribing and listening to and engaging with is the one with 50 ratings. There are others. There's one with 12, there's one with 3. There's a new one that I've set up because I've just switched hosts that has got 0. So if you're on one of them, do us a favour and search the creative condition and find the one with 50 reviews and subscribe to that, because I'm in the process of ridding the other 3. Anyway, enough of the dull stuff. So, Anthony Burrill. I saw Anthony Burrill give a talk at Manchester Design Festival going back some years now when I was living there. I love his work. We've got Think of Your Own Ideas up on our bathroom wall. That sounds wrong, doesn't it, bathroom wall? But it's got pride of place in there, and we've just redecorated the bathroom, and we wanted a knockout piece to go up there. So we moved Anthony up there from the kitchen. But I adore his work. I love the immediacy, the simplicity, but also the humanity in his writing and his choice of typography and the way that he makes these things organically. I think it's gorgeous. So I saw him talk there, and I remember sort of wanting to get him on the show after that and doing a half-assed email. But he's a busy guy. Maybe he didn't see it. Maybe it just, forgot. I do that all the time. Apologies if I've done that to any of you guys in the past. It's the reality of all these digital comms and the information overload. But I met Anthony earlier this year at the inaugural Paradiso Festival in Mexico, where we were both doing things. And we ended up having breakfast together with Anthony and his lovely wife, Emma, who's an amazingly talented garden designer who I actually saw on Gardener's World recently. Great episode. But they're wonderful people. They're very interesting. We had breakfast on most of the mornings. We were staying in the same hotel. And we made a great connection. So I said to Anthony, I'd love to get you on the podcast. Would you be up for an interview? And he said, yeah, of course. He said, why don't you come down to Rye in Kent? And I haven't been to Rye. And it looked gorgeous. So we went down there a little while ago and had the conversation you're about to hear, and it was amazing. I got to visit his studio, which is surrounded by incredible wildflower gardens, 550 trees they planted and created their own woodland, which is now home to foxes, moles, mice, birds, insects, you name it. They've really taken care of the wild thing and the biodiversity. And it gave me a huge lift. And to their credit, Anthony and Emma, they invited not just me down, but my wife Laura, who also loves Anthony's work, and the gardens, and nature, and our kids. Frank and Martha. So the four of us went down there and they gave us a full tour. You know, we had a drink, we sat and talked together, we sat out the back and looked over the wildflower gardens outside Anthony's studio before I did this interview. Two wonderful human beings. I just want to put that on the record. And when you see what people have built, like the beautiful studio and the wildflower gardens, and then you hear that they came from the kind of same working class roots as you, it's utterly inspiring to see what you can make through creativity and what you can achieve, you know, if you've got that determination and focus, or if you can find that within yourself to find your voice, to get out there and do it on your terms. So that's it. Without further ado, let's get into Anthony's story because it's incredible. If you want to work with me directly on my coaching through the creative condition, it's something I'm pushing heavily at the moment. I have an illustrator-specific coaching session. I have the pit stop, which is the bigger, broader, deep dive into broader creativity in the human condition, where we really go into the sort of therapeutic side of it. We look at origin story, pain points, blocks. I've been doing it with founders recently, which is a really great market because founders are doing amazing work running these agencies, but they're stretched in a million directions and they lose that connection with the pure self, and it becomes very hard to know where to point themselves. So I've been loving helping founders recently. So if you are one of those, I would love to work with you. Get in touch. We can have a conversation. Alternatively, visit thecreativecondition.com/coach for all the info and drop me a note through there. Always happy to jump on a call, come and see you, whatever it takes. We'll have a chat. I can elevate your situation. I can help you get where you need to go. That's enough. Let's get to it. This is my conversation down in Rye in Kent in the studio of the brilliant, legendary Anthony Burrill.
Yeah, well, I suppose, it's like we lived just up on the moors, just overlooking like Oldham, and you can see Manchester in the distance. And it's like my mum and dad bought this old farmhouse and knocked it down and built their own kind of like approximation of a kind of modernist house there, in the kind of early 70s. So yeah, it was kind of quite an amazing place to grow up, like big, huge views over the Pennines, and like really quite epic. Yeah. And yeah, I just went to the local school, and I was good at art, so I was kind of in the art room all the time, really, just kind of. And
was it in the family? Did you have?
No, not really. Yeah, it's like my dad was a car mechanic. My mum was a dinner lady. So yeah, but yeah, there's no real kind of like creative role models or anything in the family. So I think I kind of got that through, going to galleries and listening to music and like record sleeves and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. So you mentioned record sleeves, but one thing I wanted to ask you about that is like, what was it? And I asked this to someone the other day, and it was, I'm fascinated by the first kind of thing that breaks through in the sense that, so I'll give you my example. Shaggy and Michael Jackson were kind of the cassettes that I had.
Yeah.
And as much as I liked them tunes, it hadn't broken through into my world.
Yeah.
And I discovered Blur. And it changed everything for me, because it's like, you suddenly find that there's this band writing about characters and experiences that you can relate to in your little town, which I find that until you come across that culture, it doesn't mean anything in the same way. Was there anything that landed with you in a similar way? It doesn't have to be specifically within record sleeves, but I think music has a way of doing that.
Yeah, I suppose I've always been a fan of David Hockney, and it's kind of reading his story, kind of, growing up in Bradford and then going to the Royal College, and, kind of, in a weird way, his story was something that I could kind of, I don't know whether I wanted to kind of like emulate his story and kind of, but yeah, I think so. But I think like within popular culture, I think, I was like, my favourite bands were like Adam and the Ants and the Human League, and everyone. It was kind of like at that time, it was all. It was more to do with artifice, I think, and it was more to do with, kind of extracting yourself from reality and kind of going to a different place.
I agree with that completely. Yeah, and I think that there's, even in that experience of accessing that culture, there's something otherworldly about that experience of, going to a record shop and picking something up that you can feel. and looking at the art, looking at the inlay, or where, you know, in music or a magazine, you know, even just a magazine. To this day, I find magazines to be quite magic. And where did you access that? Those, you know, where did you buy records? What did that look like? You know, what time are we talking?
Yeah, well, I suppose like mid-80s onwards, really.
Okay. So early 90s.
Yeah, and I kind of vividly remember like being in the sixth form common room, and there was a record player and could bring records in to play. And I can remember somebody bringing in White Lines, and like hearing that kind of electro sound for the first time. And then somebody brought in Blue Monday, and just those sounds were just something that really kind of got me excited, really. And then, yeah, kind of like going into record shops, kind of getting on the bus and then going down to Manchester and going to the, you know, record shops in Manchester, and just kind of seeing, you know, like amazing visuals as well as the sounds. And yeah.
Did you find that I find that there's a feeling, you know, like you said, you hit on it there, but when you get that electrifying feeling of hitting upon music that does that to you, to this day, you know, I can pick up a book, hear a story told, whatever the format is, it just makes me want to create insatiably. Did you feel that back then? I guess what I'm digging at is the kind of that leap from drawing because you're good at it at school, and then sort of doing it maybe because there's something that makes you feel that way and it makes you want to create. Did you experience that? Yeah,
definitely. I think it's kind of, it's, you know, just kind of knowing that there's this life out there, that, you know, there was this, especially in London, you know, in those days, everything was about London, and kind of, I just wanted to kind of find out where all this stuff got made, and, you know, the kind of, and kind of experiencing that culture, and then kind of feeling like, you know, I wanted to kind of be part of it, and kind of to find out how I got there, and, you know, which door I had to open to get in there. And it's like when my art teacher, you know, recommended that I did a foundation course and I think about going to art school, it was almost like, yeah, this is my destiny, you know.
Yeah, it's, to this day, it's maybe the most, no, maybe I don't know about the most, but it's right up there with the most magical moments walking into art college, which for me was in Keighley Art College, and it was an old industrial unit that just basically been whitewashed and partition walled. But walking in there, it was for work experience. I'd sort of rejected everything on the potential list for work experience because I get a combination of maybe just stubborn, but also just going, no, I don't feel anything about that. You know, if I'm going to do this, my parents have said, if you're going to do it, spend a long time doing it, choose with your heart. Anyway, the first person who asked what I'd like to do was the design technology teacher, Mr. Shackle, and he said, what would you like to do? I said, drawing. I said, okay, we'll form the art college then, and we'll see if we can get you and 3 others who haven't chosen it. And they sat us on a desk down there for 2 weeks, but that feeling of walking in all them whitewashed walls, seeing people wearing their own clothes and doing something they gave a shit about, has never gone away. And that community and that connection was beautiful. Yeah,
I think it's that difference between school and sixth form. You know, I kind of felt like the odd one out. And then as soon as I got onto my foundation course, I was like, all right, okay, there are others like me. And it's like, you know, everybody, they were all odd bods as well, you know, and it's kind of like, it's kind of, and then I kind of very quickly became part of a group of friends, and we were just all really into like finding out about art and music, and, you know, we'd take ourselves off down to Manchester to the City Gallery and stuff like that, and it's kind of like, you know, lads out on a trip to the art gallery. It's kind of like, and but you know, for us, it was just like that we were interested in that stuff, you know.
Yeah, and it's I've started doing last year or so. I've been doing coaching with people with creativity, and one of the first things I ask is about what they're engaged with, what they're into, and not everyone is. People forget that sense of curiosity and digging and finding out and being into something. And I think there's a real danger there that zest starts to wane a little bit when it just becomes about the work and the project. So I think it's absolutely vital. What things did you discover? Like what things, I guess in a design world, what things spoke to you early on?
I think it's more like fine art, really. So it's things like Hockney and Rauschenberg and Kirchwitters and, all those kind of artists and just all that stuff, really. I think it was work that had a kind of graphic feel to it. So, kind of maybe like letter forms would be in, you'd see a letter form in a Hockney painting or, and it was that kind of, and then I was kind of, I think I was just kind of drawn to the more kind of graphic things. I'm quite sort of, the way I kind of lay things out is kind of quite kind of collagey kind of feel. I like to sort of draw upon found objects, and I always think about type like a found object. So I think when I was on foundation, I just filled sketchbooks with collages and kind of like old wiring diagrams and kind of bus timetables and kind of bits of type that I'd found and all that stuff.
That's interesting. I was quite drawn to that stuff too, the layering and the idea of. I saw Stephen Bliss. Do you know Stephen Bliss's work?
No,
he was the lead artist for Rockstar Games, did all the Grand Theft Auto stuff. And Stephen, he did quite a wild departure after he left Rockstar Games, and he started making these huge. It was called I Frankenstein. These huge kind of 6 foot by 3 foot. I mean, they were living, breathing things. And what he'd do would go down on the subways in New York, and when the posters had been layer upon layer upon layer upon layer, he'd rip corners and bits away and take them home and then draw back into them and make these huge things. And he ended up doing a TED talk about palimpsests, about that, that just sheer depth of collage and texture. And there's always something that I got quite drawn to with that. But also from what you said, that I find this really interesting, those formative, what's the word? It's almost a calling. It's like, it's when because we don't have, you can't articulate at that point when you're starting your career.
Yes, I just like it.
Yeah, but it speaks to something in you, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And there's many. When we came in here, you said that you were very tidy. I wonder if letter form. I don't know. I was just throwing ideas around now, but I find that interesting how it resonates with the personality.
Yeah, and I think it's it's like my parents were like super tidy and like very ordered and kind of everything had its place, and I think it's for me that's where I feel comfortable, like when everything's kind of organised and tidy and I know what stuff is. And I think that's the same with the work. It's like even though I like sort of chance and kind of like the unexpected within the work, I still like to know where things are going to be and to kind of organise things.
Yeah, it's very interesting, and I think with sort of younger people coming into the industry in mind, I think that listening to them instinctive pulls and those personal needs and the way that you're wired is really important, isn't it? To lean into that and not go against it because you feel like you should be doing something else.
Yeah, and I think it's sort of it's all part of discovering yourself, isn't it? And when you're a student, you're kind of soaking up all this information and then producing your own version of things that you're seeing. And it's like at first, you're quite sort of kind of clumsy about incorporating your influences, but as you get older and a bit more sophisticated, you're a bit better at cloaking those things. But it's kind of, I think when you're a student, you just need to dive in and just like explore every avenue, really.
You do. I there's something about, I think it was in Rick Rubin's book, but he read about how you can train to be spontaneous, and I found that quite powerful. It's that idea of letting go, because we are, and to this day I ebb and flow with that. Sometimes I'll be very freeform and really lean into that unfinished and that human hand.
Yeah.
And then sometimes, I'll send a good art director something and we'll go, what's this? Where's that from your portfolio? Get that life in there, loosen up. And it's like, I have to be told every now and again. There's something about that aspect of perfectionism. that creeps back in.
Yeah, well, I think sometimes you tend to overthink things and kind of go, oh, well, it needs to, look more professional or more finished, or
Yeah.
and then it's almost like as soon as you kind of free yourself from that and kind of forget that, that's when the good stuff happens.
I think so, absolutely. And were you supported in your pursuit of art? Like in the family?
100%. Yeah. And I think, I was, the first person from our family to go into further education, and it was like, my mum and dad were just like proud of everything that I did. Really, it's like going, and it's like going to foundation, then going to do my degree at Leeds, and then going into the Royal College. It was almost like, they were with me every step of the way, really.
Yeah. I had that too, and it's vital. I think you see so many people turned away for just because of that fear of the unknown. And that's interesting, isn't it? Because I had the same thing with the kind of first person to go to college. My mum did a couple of college courses in art. She's a good artist herself, very good. But that opportunity that generation onwards were given to do that.
Yeah.
I think it's you go from sort of very working class into, there's an opportunity then to go and pursue something that's maybe takes a little bit more time and a little bit more introspection. I think that's fortunate context almost. Yeah,
definitely. And I think, kind of, just growing up in that kind of environment where, I was kind of, encouraged to do that, really. It was great, yeah.
And am I right in thinking you went to Leeds Poly?
Yes, yeah. So I applied to go to Preston, but I didn't get an interview. So I had to go to my second choice, which was Leeds.
The flip. I was very much ushered back out of Leeds Met. And sent to Preston, and I love Preston.
Yeah. No, it's weird. It's almost like, being chosen, whether it's, which you don't know it at the time, but that's a real kind of, whichever way you're going to go in your career, it's amazing. But I went to Leeds, and that was the kind of the culture of the course is really open and kind of free form, and I think if you were enthusiastic and you put the hours in and you turned up, you could pretty much write your own course, really.
Yeah, that was I still got that energy when I look around Leeds and talked to a lot of courses. They seem to be quite self-led and often industry focused. There was one of the reasons I liked it was that some of the courses were maybe even up to like 75% industry led. There would be live briefs, and you would just be kind of steered by the course tutors. And I think there's something very valuable in that.
Yeah. And I think, well, for me, it was kind of because I was in between illustration and graphic design, printmaking, and all the different areas, really, sculpture and film, and I kind of had a go at everything and kind of combined all the different things, and I was kind of free to do that, really. And I think it's just that thing of like, if you're into doing it, then the tutors are gonna help you.
Yeah, that's one major thing that I absolutely loved. Just that tutor who'd kind of either speak to you or hear you talking or see something in your notebooks and would just come by and just pop a book on your desk or a CD and just go, listen to that, read that, just give you that little next link in the chain. That's a lovely thing.
Yeah, and it's kind of like, opening those little doors and then kind of, seeing what everybody else is into. It's like, seeing what posters and postcards people have put in their spaces, and that was a big thing about kind of creating your little space, your little cubby hole, kind of show all the stuff that you thought was cool.
That was nice, actually, and it's something I still place quite big importance on, just having those things around in my peripheral vision. Going back to what we said about that exhilarating feeling of finding a new piece of music or a book, just to have those things around to remind me kind of why I'm doing this is important to me.
Yeah, definitely.
So what did London feel like?
When I was at Leeds getting into the third year, and then the tutor said, I should apply for the Royal College. I think the year previously, Andy Stevens, who was at Graphic Thought Facility. He'd applied and gone to Royal College, so there's a kind of precedent, I think, of students coming from Leeds to go to Royal College. So I applied and got an interview, and then magically got a place.
Yeah.
And it was kind of, it was real, because when I was at Leeds, I kind of understood stuff, it was like I understood what my role was, and, I kind of got on well with the tutors, and, it's like kind of knew everything. And then when I got to Royal College, it was like, forget everything, you're in a different place now. It's like you can't get away with what you're doing in Leeds. It's like my tutor, leading the course was Margaret Calvert. Alan Kitchen was teaching typography, and it was just a very I just remember it was almost like, I think you're like joining the army, when you kind of they break you to kind of remake you. So yeah, it was tough, and it was 2-year MA, and there were only a few, like, handful of points where I kind of felt like the tutors were appreciative of what I was doing. I think the rest of the time it was like, it was tricky.
Yeah, no, rigorous. I had that perception of all of higher education, until I got there. But yeah, that's something I've heard from that kind of level of institution.
Yeah.
So am I right in thinking you left with? It was some way distant from the Anthony Burrill we know today, like the typographic work. Like, what kind of, I guess, how did you feel when you left? Like, was there any kind of inner authority, or was it a kind of, I'm just going to get out into the world and find out where all this stuff lives?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, well, it's like everybody else, like all of us who were students there, everyone just kind of went on to do their own thing afterwards. So there's never any chance that I'd go and get a job somewhere. It was like, that was like verboten. So, you just had to kind of start, really. So, because I had made this kind of tape slide piece at the Royal College about the life story of Anna Sewell, who wrote Black Beauty. It was just this really weird little kind of, it was this bit of sound that I found, like a sort of introduction to the book, narrated, and it was this really spooky little story. So I kind of created an animation based on that, and then Peter Doherty, who is creative director of MTV, he saw that and then asked me to go to MTV to do some work for them. And that was like, I got his card at the degree show. It was almost like, and he was the first person who kind of saw any potential in me, really, I think.
I'm a big believer in resonance. When you make work that has got meaning to you, I'm a big believer in that kind of, I don't have the words for it, I call it the thread, and that's an example. I think that sounds like an example of it. That person would be there and get that card that would pick up. But I think that you have to give a shit about the work for that to happen.
Yeah, well, it's kind of like, it was because I'd used like a sample off a De La Soul record of this like weird little piano signature that was looped, and with this voiceover, and then with like these weird images on. It's almost like it had all the elements of stuff that was around at the time. Graduated in 91, so it was like things were very different in those days. It was kind of so yeah, I think I was just doing like kind of weird kooky stuff that kind of fitted in with the kind of MTV vibe at the time.
Yeah, but at the same time, my guess would be, and only you can tell me this, but my guess would be that you were doing that from a place of just deep curiosity as opposed to any external pursuit.
Oh yeah, it's like the last thing on my mind was, it's like, I think I was just kind of fumbling around and like finding these things that were interesting and kind of putting them together. It's like the idea of collage, like, really kind of goes through everything, really. So it's like found objects again, kind of images and sounds kind of put together in this quite sort of rudimentary, quite raw kind of way, really.
And what happened post grad? Did you go sort of straight into the industry with projects like that? Was that enough to live off?
Yeah. Kind of, to kind of start off with, it's kind of, I was just living in a house share, and it's like Emma, my wife, she was working commercially as a photographer, so I was kind of helping her. I was kind of, looking around lighting equipment and things, and kind of, and just doing just kind of finding things, and I think that kind of, that early MTV stuff kind of opened a few doors, started working more in advertising after that.
Yeah. And how long did that go for, working commercially? Like, what was it? Actually, better question. What were the threads of the self-discovery that kind of led to where you are today? Like, what were the earliest? Was there a point of frustration in the commercial work where you began to tune in or discover that voice?
Yeah, I think so. It's kind of maybe sort of after doing that kind of stuff for about 10 years, I think. I was kind of like, I'd always wanted to kind of do my own stuff and kind of create my own things, but kind of, when I was working commercially, it was good. I was kind of like, I was good at working with art directors and kind of working to briefs and, getting paid and doing projects. And it was successful and I was enjoying it. But then after a while, you have that sort of like inner thing that, you want to kind of have your own voice. You don't want to be a kind of mouthpiece for somebody else's ideas.
I would differentiate it as intellectual and emotional creativity. The intellectual obviously being the commercial, the brief-led stuff, which as you just said, I'm the same. I love. Yeah. I get a huge kick out of working with good creative and art directors, and a nice challenge and a good project. But ultimately, it's the stuff in them books. It's the curiosities in my lived experience that really bring them to life. What were the kind of? Because I think what you do is built on great writing. I think it's fantastic writing. It might be singular phrases, but for me, there's an essence and a simplicity I have such admiration for there, because it's that thing of when you get one great line of prose and you go, that's amazing, that's amazing, and you just can think about it all day.
Yeah.
Did you ever write in other ways? Like, did you consider yourself a writer in any way?
Not really. No, it's always been a way that I can kind of get my ideas across and things. I kind of used text when I was at college in projects, so I was already kind of playing with words and things, and I think just through like song lyrics and kind of, and then I suppose working in advertising as well, you kind of get used to getting a lot across through with like the kind of copyright, being around copywriters and seeing how that happens, and then sort of pitching in with ideas and but then kind of like playing around with words, and I think the way I kind of go about things, I try and keep things simple as much as possible, and kind of keep things direct and manageable and understandable, and I think that kind of comes across in in the way I interact with people, and I think that comes through the work as well, that it's like I'm trying to get my ideas across in a really simple and kind of straightforward, understandable, relatable way. Yeah,
there's a lovely, it's almost there's a lovely lead in, and it just leaves enough for the viewer to run with it and to interpret it, and that's beautiful. That's an art in itself.
Knowing when to stop.
Absolutely. Just enough to give someone, a nice feeling of relatability almost, but then it could be theirs. They can completely own that phrase.
Yeah, definitely. And then so then I suppose it was after working commercially and moving out of London. We had small children at the time, moving down to Kent, and then finding the letterpress workshop in Rye and starting to work with them, and then doing the Work Hard and Be Nice to People poster, and that was like at the start of another chapter.
Was that the first one? Was that the kind of the watershed?
Yeah. So it was literally, it's like we moved down to Rye, and Rye's a fantastic little town, like really independent kind of place, and it has this old letterpress printers, and I kind of found the printers and asked them if they could print a poster for me, and it was really cheap. You know, it was kind of like really affordable. So it was like I could print this big format poster and just send it out to friends, you know, as a kind of calling card or something. But yeah, and that's so I made that, and then that was 21 years ago.
Yeah. What sort of comeback did you get? What role did response play in your sort of your confidence in following that thread from there?
Yeah, well, just like kind of I suppose like, you know, by making it, putting it out into the world, and then after a while, you know, getting emails from strangers asking for a copy of it, and it's almost like, oh right, so somebody's seen this somewhere else, and they've, you know, contacted me to, and it's like, you know, the penny dropped, and then you know, starting to sell it through galleries and shops and through my website, and that it started to become a stream of income, really.
Because that's so much of this, isn't it? As a way of life and as a career, is being attuned to responses, not in a way that you let others dictate the way your career goes, but just being aware for the opportunities and the kind of the demand and how people respond to your art is so important. And I feel like there's probably an unprecedented level of pressure in today's world, given the cost of living, given the sheer ubiquity of everything, you know, everything always there on these little screens. That probably stops a certain amount of that ability to just to be at peace and to kind of tune into what's happening and how your work is being responded to. Everything I've done in my career, whether it's illustration, writing, all of it has been quite organic, quite accidental. And I remember recently during a quite lean spell, I was getting quite stressed, you know, with 2 young kids, and I sort of started admonishing myself, as you do, and sort of said, and what the realization I came to, I sort of, in my own mind, I was thinking, when was any of the big jobs that you've had A, likely, and B, predictable? It was never either.
No.
But they all happened, and you have to remind yourself of that, and sometimes it's very hard to feel that moving forward.
Yeah.
But
yeah, you know, if you had a crystal ball and you knew when things were going to happen, but then you'd be stressed out because it's kind of, I think you've just got to carry on. You know, you've just got to do your stuff, and just like you still, you know, I think it's to do with self-belief and focus, and you know, just doing it. Doing it every day.
Was there a point of sort of point of commitment to in that evolution of the style we see today?
I think so. I think, like after a certain point, because I had a few different like commercial agents and things, and after a while I just said, like, I just want to, I don't want to do commercial work with you anymore. And it was kind of like, it was a big breakup, and it was kind of, it's like, so my agent was like, well, so, you know, so what are you going to do next? And I said, well, I don't know. Let's see what happens. And it's kind of like, it was almost like, because I didn't know what I was going to do next. And it was like, but I knew I kind of needed to kind of change and to kind of do the kind of work that I wanted to do. You know, and I knew that if I kind of carried on working commercially, the work would slowly diminish and I'd end up, it just kind of run out of steam, I think, really. It definitely would have done if I'd stayed in that kind of channel of doing things. Things would be very different now, I think. Really.
Again, that's another art in itself, isn't it? It's being true enough to yourself to recognize when that begins to happen. Because it's so easy. It's so easy to whether it's something that comes from a place of comfort financially, or just because the work's coming. Or, you know, there's many reasons why people get trapped in that position and forget why they started to do it in the first place.
And it's you know, I've been working on kind of projects that I just had absolutely no, you know, kind of belief in other than you know, I know how to do this, I know to kind of make what the client or the agency or whatever wants, and I can do that. And then, you know, but there was never kind of thinking time for me to kind of do my own thing separately. So it was kind of quite right. You know, I've got to, you know, if I want to kind of make a change, then it's got to be quite a sort of dramatic exit
Yeah.
into a different, and it's like, but then it's like, right, well, not having a safety net is a great, it's a great kind of way of kind of, making things done.
How did you manage that? Did you feel much pressure or fear around it? Or?
I don't know. It's kind of, I think at the time, like I knew there were other things that I could kind of do and sort of, concentrate more on, making my own work and kind of, selling prints. And, that was, kind of like mid-noughties, that kind of culture was becoming more of a thing. And like people were, kind of, starting to buy direct from, artists who are publishing their own work, and the small galleries popping up doing that kind of thing that were kind of different to the kind of places that had existed previously.
Yeah, and I guess the early stages of the internet too, when it wasn't so flooded and perhaps more fertile. Yeah.
I'd worked a little bit in kind of like internet stuff before that, kind of doing websites and things for bands and stuff. But it's kind of, and then bit later on, the advent of social media and all that stuff.
Yeah, and your process today is still very organic.
I pretty much, I just work from project to project, or kind of as things happen, stuff will come in, or kind of, or I'll kind of like develop a kind of body of work for an exhibition, or kind of. Or then, I'll just get an email from somebody said, "Did you want to do this?"
Yeah.
Yes, I want to.
Yeah.
And it's amazing. It's like, and it still, it happens, and it still works. And it's, I think a lot about longevity and like how to, stay kind of doing the thing you want to do and still stay interested in what you do, still be excited.
Yeah,
after all these years.
Yeah, and that goes back to the curiosity and the I guess the cultivation of it and the ideas and the writing. It's that you have to be engaged with something broader than just the craft, don't you, to maintain that interest.
Yeah, and you have to be part of the broader community as well. Yeah. I think you have to be active, within like education, and you have to kind of get involved in, talking to other people about how you work and how they work. And, it's kind of, I do workshops and I give talks and, kind of travel a lot.
Yeah. And I don't know about you, but I find it a joy being, I still love the fact I will get asked occasionally to do things like festivals and universities. And to your point, I love that energy, and I learn from the students, and I love the challenge of, sitting down and looking at their portfolios and passing a few comments and sort of, and it's not just like, that's not me saying I'm in any way giving back. I think I actually learn more from them sometimes than they do from me, because there's that naivety there, and I see ideas in their work that just refresh things for me a little bit. Yeah,
there's nothing better than sitting down with a really bright student and they're like, wow, like it's kind of like, it's like a completely new way of looking at things. They've grown up in a very different kind of context to the ones that I grew up in, and it's sort of you just see the stuff and you think, it's brilliant. It's like you're doing really amazing stuff, and it's like how can I kind of, you just want to harness a bit of that energy and kind of like kind of understand how where all that stuff comes from. And it's like I just really just want to be part of what's still, the culture that's happening now,
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I think it's very interesting. I've been talking to Pablo Honey. I don't know if you met him when we were at Paradiso. Very quiet, very, very shy guy, amazingly talented. And he's been talking about, he loves like the classics and philosophy and things. And he was telling me how he went through this phase with wanting to get up to speed with contemporary culture before realising that it wasn't him. It was almost living in New York. It was something he felt he needed to do. Yeah. And he said, don't get me wrong, like, things will land on my radar that do resonate and break through, of course. I'm not completely oblivious to contemporary culture. but it was almost a sort of, oh God, I need to know more about what these people are talking about. And I found that really interesting, you know. And I find that maybe it's about the balance of the, you know, remaining open to what's out there and what's going to inform new ideas.
Yeah.
And not being afraid to go back to those old loves as well.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it's kind of, you know, I love going to Glastonbury, and it's, you know, I was there this, you know, a couple of months ago, and, you know, to kind of be part of what's going on there and kind of just seeing, you know, that celebration of culture and kind of, you know, yeah, it was just amazing. And you kind of come back from that feeling really energized and and then you just want to do more of it and kind of, you know.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And it goes back to what you were saying about, you know, going into Manchester and going to galleries when you're starting out. It's like, I think you've always got to be looking for, I think it's play, personally. I can say, I liken it to the same feeling I got when I played out as a kid. I went to find my mates on the old mill yard where we used to hang out, and it's like, I want that, but I always want whatever the new version of that is in my life. I think when you relinquish that, I think the creativity suffers.
Yeah. Well, it's kind of like looking for the boundaries, isn't it? And like looking for the next territory that you haven't explored, and you know, kind of, kind of being allowed to go into different spaces and to, you know, to carry on being yourself, but in a new space and, you know, surrounded by new, like unfamiliar rules.
Yeah,
and then like trying to kind of make sense of it and kind of. And I think that comes from understanding yourself. Yeah, really.
I think so. Absolutely. And about posters and prints, so I know. You still work on the presses, and is there a digital aspect to your work?
Yeah. So kind of, I kind of work with a combination of letterpress, screen print, a bit of kind of computer stuff in between to kind of create layouts and things like that. But yeah, it's still very. I think the amount of technology that I use probably hasn't changed for the past 20 odd years.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's kind of like I kind of learned how to use the bit of Photoshop that I need.
Yeah,
and a bit of Illustrator, and that's it really. I kind of I know all the things.
Well, I think surely it's about the tools serving the idea.
Yeah.
And that's, you know, then what you need it to do, and that's. I'm the same. What I really enjoy is the balance between creating a, you know, sometimes there'll be 50 sheets for a project where it's spray paint textures and forms and then a bit of charcoal. Ultimately, what I really love is then when it's all scanned, is the freedom of, you know, just being a bit of a sorcerer with that and making a canvas and bringing that to life in a different way and reconsidering colours. And that intersection is just something that I'm in love with. And but I don't really feel the need to push too far beyond that. I remain curious and I'll always consider new ways of working. But there's something about that mixed media, that intersection there with digital and analog that I just adore.
Yeah, and it's kind of, you know, you could have like half a dozen visual elements and you could create, you know, 100 different iterations of that and kind of, you know, and then from that you think, oh, that bit's nice, I'll kind of explore that bit and then take that into print, and from that then you can kind of create a whole other range of stuff that's made physically.
Yeah, I think so. And then permanence is another idea I've been reflecting on recently, and I think without doubt your stuff has that. You know, I think the minimalism of it and the kind of the immediacy of it, it's timeless. You know, it doesn't feel attached to any time period. Is that something you agree with?
And I think I was kind of, I've been conscious of that. You know, it's like I use a kind of range of typefaces that are kind of, you know, from over 100 years ago. You know, it's kind of, you know, those wood typefaces and you know, all that stuff that is communication from a different age. But I'm using it. It's kind of really become part of my tone of voice, really. You know, I really feel like I've owned that. Yeah, that kind of thing. You know, a bit of scented wood letter on a poster is mine now.
Yeah. How anal do you get with the with the layouts and the placing? Like, are you precise? Are you happy to let things live, or what's the?
Yeah, I'm kind of. I think the way that I work now is because I've it's just like an extension of what I do. It's like a physical connection with that stuff. So when I'm kind of doing a bit of kerning or something like that, I kind of just kind of slot it in, and it all just kind of appears really. I just do little adjustments if things don't look right, and then maybe come back to it the day after and have another look and think, I just need to shuffle that letter around a little bit. But after that it's kind of but then don't try to overdo it too much. I still like that it's got a kind of life to it.
That's the soul, isn't it? I have a hand lettering brand, and it's exactly that. It's become such a kind of practiced craft now that it might look like a kid did it, but it's like I can sit there and I can nail more or less with a knackered old brush.
Yeah.
Again, like you said, I'll come back the next day and there might be a bit of, I'll remove a few too many splats there or whatever it might be. Yeah. But really, it's that burst of sympathy with the image, and if I'm working on photography, there's just an instinctive, learning of it. It's a process, and I love that.
Yeah, it's something. It's like, maybe like the first time you do it, you're a bit kind of self-conscious, and does this look all right? And then it's like, after you've done it for the 1,000th time, it's like, you kind of know, you know what you're doing with it.
Yeah. And I did want to ask about the, I like it. What is it? Is that that has to be that. The genesis of that has to be surely in the whole, artwork that is beautiful. But
and it's. I think it's broader than that as well. It's about curiosity and kind of like, just that hopeful curiosity and looking at the world in a kind of, still holding on to that wonder of excitement of, not necessarily understanding everything 100%, but understanding that you like it and that you want more of it and you want to find out more about it, and it's kind of
love that.
And it's just that it's just a way of life, really, isn't it? It's kind of I think we should all be like that.
I think so, yeah. And we're sitting here today and start looking up us that more than you think you do, and I think there's something very relevant about that in today's world. There's a lot of external validation going on through social media, and I think that it's dangerous for a lot of creatives to read too much into that. And I hope that, in particular, the story about your graduation project and that that this was just this weird thread of thought and this personal, digging that should hook a wonderful and very well aligned commercial job, and I have many stories to reflect that have happened in the same way, when it's just been a blast of emotional creativity, no matter how bizarre. I'll give you an example. I did a drawing of people who were addicted to spice in Manchester. It was observational drawings, and I did them to support a story that I'd written about my fears about a close friend becoming homeless. And I'd placed them in my portfolio with no real context beyond that these were for a short story. And this was something that was referenced. So I ended up designing the artwork for the Lynx deodorant cans, global rebrand thing. You wouldn't have ever paired that together. You couldn't teach that to a student. That's how I got that job. It's do the thing that you're pulled towards, and follow the joy in your life, and there will be something, a door will open. You can't ever. There's not a way to prove that to anyone. Other than case studies. But I think it's real.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's kind of, it's just putting yourself out there, isn't it? And saying this is what I do. And then other people will kind of gravitate towards it. Eventually, I think if you and keep doing it as well. Don't just do it once and expect it to land. Because it doesn't.
No, it doesn't. You're absolutely right. You have to remain permanently curious and keep doing that. And it can take decades for some people as well. And it's and that might be enough to not do it for some people, which is also fine, because it's tough at times.
Yeah, it's like, I was chatting to it's like when students get in touch, I always say, let's just have a chat online, and we can have a proper half an hour chat about about your project or whatever. And this guy came on, he was a mature student, and we were just like talking about what it's like being a mature student, within education now. And it's like, kind of, your peer group are like 15, 20 years younger than you, and it's kind of like how that experience works, and how, kind of, but yeah, it's really interesting. And I kind of came away from that thinking about, the way that you kind of learn through doing things, and kind of, yeah, it's really interesting. So I think it's having conversations with people in lots of different situations as well.
Yeah, I think so. I think the conversations are really important. This year I've reverted back to more conversations and coffees and
but I think that's how things have always worked, isn't it? It's like, since there was a world before social media, and things did used to get done, and you'd have your social networks, but I don't want to sound like an old man, but it's like, kind of just going to like a private view, or just like bumping into people, and just being with kind of like being in kind of physical proximity to like a bunch of other people. It's really good.
Yeah, being in a room talking about what you're interested in and what you're passionate about. Not even necessarily what you're doing work-wise. It's good to, if that comes up, then that's great, of course. But just being interested and interested.
Yeah,
that's what this industry is kind of built on, really, isn't it?
Yeah, curiosity. And
yeah. Brilliant. Well, I mean, this has been amazing. Is there anything coming up that you can let us in on that's exciting?
Just kind of more things, really. I think because, we've been doing things like open gardens and open studios, and that's something that we're going to do more of. It's like my wife, Emma, she's a garden designer, and it's kind of the kind of link between the garden and the studio, and the work that I make and the work that she makes as well. It's kind of like welcoming people into our house, and to kind of show them how it all kind of works. It's really exciting. So we're going to be, I think we've got another one in like at the end of October, kind of like autumn garden studio visit.
Yeah, it's exciting. I love that. I love that link as well. It's I've got a very wanky word for it, but biophilia is on my kind of coaching framework that I work with people, because looking out over here, it's just that sense of bit of connection with nature, I think, is really important to creativity. So I completely see that overlap.
Yeah, definitely. But and it's kind of, it's where we live and work, and, it's kind of, we've created our little utopia here.
Yeah.
And it's nice to share it with people.
Yeah, and bloody inspiring, given I'm this little guy as well.
Yeah. Here's Arthur.
He's gorgeous. Brilliant. Well, thank you so much for your time. It's been a joy.
Couldn't be more grateful to Anthony and Emma for having us down to Anthony's studio and showing us the beautiful garden work that Emma's done on their lovely property down in Kent. What an experience. It's why I do this. It's why this passion of creativity of mine, of exploring creativity and helping people access theirs. It leads me into amazing places, and I'm forever grateful. So thank you to all concerned. Thank you for everyone who's listened to this show, continues to listen. I hope you enjoyed this conversation today. This means a lot to me, this work. So you can continue to listen to the show. You can check out the reading list at thecreativecondition.com, where I curate books to help you with your creativity. I write articles on the diary. You'll hear some of which on this very podcast, or you can read them all there in depth at your leisure. I write longer form articles too. If you want to go beyond that and you want some direct help, I would love to work with you on the coaching front, whether you're a founder, freelancer, a team of people in an agency. I am passionate about this, my understanding of the human condition and creativity. And those two things together are my USP. The 300 plus conversations I've had on this show, the research for the 2 books I've written, gives me the ability to come in, to see a problem and to come up with actionable solutions to get you realigned with your pure creativity and moving forward. So let's talk. thecreativecondition.com/coach. Cheers for listening, guys. That is about it from me, other than let's say thank you to the founding sponsor of the show who make this possible, Illustration X. You can check out their global range of incredible illustration and animation portfolios now at illustrationx.com. Please do support the Ukrainian Institute at ui.org.ua, where you can see amazing creative work made during this horrific time of war, and you can share it, you can commission it, you can support it in any little way. It all counts. Let's help them out, guys. Please do rate, review, subscribe the show. Remember, like I said before, if you're on Apple Podcasts, please do just take an extra few seconds to go and make sure you're subscribed to the version of this show with 50 ratings, because I've, like a complete plonker, managed to duplicate the show 3 times on there, which I'm only just realising, and I don't want to lose you guys. So please do go and jump across to that one so I can get rid of the other 3 in time. Nice one, guys. Have an awesome week. I hope you enjoyed this conversation with Anthony Burrill. We've got so many good ones coming up. Min Liu, partner at Base Design. Charlotte Bradman, author of The Happy Nomad and Full-Time Van Life, are talking about financial pressure. So much good stuff coming up. Stay in touch. Cheers, guys. Take care.